Chapter 9 Gumiho Encounter. While ministering to his flock, Metropolitan Onesimus was finishing up the Divine Liturgy at St. Moshi the Blacktail Cathedral in Sycamore City, Tanuki clan. And afterwards he sought to continue the good standing with his flock and performing administrative functions over his diocese. And unfortunately, one of those functions was excommunicating Tom Ringtail of the prominent Ringtail family for running a crime syndicate and refusing to turn away from the criminal underworld. But before he could return to his home, he found a handwritten letter sealed with wax bearing the Kitsune clan imperial seal as if it were written by Inari herself. And when Metropolitan Onesimus saw the emblem on the seal, he thought, I wonder if this is some sort of joke by the queen of the Kitsune clan, or if this is actually important. I guess I don't know until I open it up. Onesimus then broke the seal and found it wasn't Inari who wrote the letter addressed to him, but Friar Victor Kitsune. And when he saw that it was Victor, he immediately stopped everything to read its contents, knowing that this was the same Victor Kitsune who led to the conversion of Moshi the Blacktail and his own people in the 1300s. The contents of this letter read, To Your Eminence, Metropolitan Bishop Onesimus of the Tanuki clan. I write this letter to you because I need help with the Kitsune clan and must fulfill functions I do not have the authority to do. Here is the situation. I am flooded with catechumens and cannot possibly meet all their spiritual needs by myself. Even with 3 great people with me, being Todd Reddington, his wife Dixie, and their servant they treat as their own family named Dixie. And when these catechumens do finally reach the time of their baptism and chrismation, I do not have the authority to do these sacraments except baptism in the most extreme circumstances. Therefore, I hope it is not too much to ask with how many responsibilities you have as the Metropolitan Bishop of the Tanuki clan. But if you are able, can you please spare us a priest to do the sacraments for these catechumens, so that my spiritual children, Todd, Dixie, and their servant Dixie, do not go without them? As for myself, I have already notified my bishop, who is the Archbishop of Zolsura, Clement, about my stay in the Kitsune clan indefinitely, and he has agreed to allow this. However, because Archbishop Clement of Zolsura only has jurisdiction over the Zolsuran Archdiocese, he does not have direct oversight over what is happening in the Kitsune clan. So, that is why I am asking your eminence for help, because you are the closest to the Kitsune clan and therefore have the most immediate oversight without our own bishop. And if your eminence is able to spare us a priest, do not be worried about the cultural misunderstandings, because Todd, Dixie, and I have that under control. I understand that the Kitsune and Tanuki clans have been at odds for a long time, but this is more important than silly ethnic feuds, because this is about salvation. And if it's not too much to ask, I'd like to have someone who is well-versed in heresies, because apart from who I know are genuine Christians, there are plenty of pseudo-Christian sects in the Kitsune clan who cite Holy Scripture as their authority while denouncing the authority of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And these are more dangerous to the spiritual and psychological well-being of my catechumens than the worshippers of Okami Inari. To list all the heresies they believe in would be impossible to fit in one letter. But I am doing what I am able to do, to guide my catechumens in the ways of truth, and reject the empty philosophies and vain deceits from those who, like Satan in the desert, twist the Scriptures for their personal gain. I hope to hear back from your eminence soon, and in the meantime, I'll be fulfilling my duties to catechize the Kitsune clan. Friar Victor Kitsune. After having read the letter, Metropolitan Onesimus prepared to have a meeting with the priests under his jurisdiction, as to who will have the honor to minister beside the one who led to the salvation of Moshi the Blacktail and the Tanuki clan. Dixie and Gumiho. It was already late at night as Dixie was finishing up running Todd's tavern while the older kitsunes were drinking and smoking and gambling on the card tables. And after the night had quieted down, Dixie began to relax as less people were ordering drinks. Meanwhile, Gumiho was starving for a heart and liver, and her nose could smell a tantalizing pure heart nearby at Todd's tavern. And then Gumiho deduced it was Dixie's heart. Little did Gumiho know, Dixie was always armed, even if it was against Kitsune clan law. Gumiho then sat down at the bar, appearing no different than any beautiful vixen, but kept staring at Dixie's belly where her liver might be. Dixie then asked, not realizing it was Gumiho who was in front of her, "What, you about to call me fat?" But Gumiho didn't answer, but began to salivate and lick her lips. Dixie then asked, "Are you gonna order a drink or not? We're closing soon." Gumiho then said, "I know exactly what I want. I'd like to have a pint of bilirubin gall." Dixie then looked confused. "Ma'am, we don't have a drink with that name. Would you like something else?" But Gumiho stared more intensely at Dixie's belly while Dixie saw a glimpse of Gumiho's blood-stained teeth. "No, because I see it right inside you." Dixie then became suspicious of the vixen in front of her and grabbed a thick glass bottle of rum, pretending like she was going to pour a drink, while she had her other paw hand on her concealed .357 Magnum revolver loaded with hollow points. Then Gumiho jumped over the counter and lunged towards Dixie's belly with her interlocking teeth showing, but Dixie used her Tanuki sense to shatter the bottle of rum over Gumiho's head before she could bite into her liver. Dixie then used the quick opportunity to get some distance between her and Gumiho and drew her revolver while at it. But Gumiho wasn't done until she could eat Dixie's heart and liver. But Dixie wasn't having any of it and realized if she did nothing, the other occupants of the tavern would be next. So, Gumiho tried to fatally attack Dixie at a second time. Dixie took aim at Gumiho and shot her with her .357 Magnum revolver until the cylinder was empty. Gumiho then could feel the hollow point shred in her insides and fled the scene before Dixie could put in another moon clip and fire another cylinder at Gumiho. Fortunately, no one in the tavern but Gumiho got hurt, and only minimal property damage from the bullet holes. But from the gunshot wounds, Gumiho began to bleed and left a trail of blood to follow, while Dixie's heart rate and adrenaline were at their maximum. The no-Jitsune protogens then arrested Dixie, while the trail of blood would become a key to finding Gumiho's lair, knowing Gumiho could heal herself given enough time. And for this public service, Inari withheld full punishment from Dixie for possessing an illegal weapon, and simply had it confiscated from her and fined her 3 months' worth of pay, while returning to her masters. However, seeing this as unjust, Todd and Vixie repaid Dixie 6 months' worth of salary in full. Did you know this? Bilirubin gall. This is a play on of the words bile and gall, which is a bodily fluid that the liver produces. Hollow points. Hollow points are a common self-defense round used in handguns because they are designed to expand or shatter when penetrating flesh, so that they do more damage and are less likely to overpenetrate and hit other people. Overpenetration is also why in some states using Full Metal Jacket bullets is illegal for hunting, because they go straight through the animal and only wound it. That is also why they are not ideal as self-defense rounds, while also having the problem of easily penetrating walls and hitting people other than the attacker. So, believe it or not, banning hollow points effectively makes using guns for self-defense where lethal force is required, makes them more dangerous as well as makes them less effective. Metropolitan bishops. Although metropolitan may seem to describe a person who is well versed in culture in various forms of media, in an Orthodox Christian context, a metropolitan bishop denotes an honorary title of a bishop who oversees other bishops and often oversees a region as opposed to a particular city. They are also typically referred to as Your Eminence when addressed in an informal setting or writing. Friars. Friars, although a Catholic word and not used in Orthodoxy, is someone who belongs to a monastic order that is involved with the civic life outside the monastery, and isn't solely living the monastic life outside of society. So, although Orthodox monks are referred to as father even if they are not clergy, I found friar to be more fitting an accurate description of what Victor Kitsune does, more so than a title. Because Victor is not ordained clergy, but is regularly in the life of ordinary people while also living out his monastic vocation. So, calling Victor by the title friar is more effective as a title as well as intended to distinguish Victor from priests and deacons in which he is neither. Onesimus. Onesimus historically was the slave of Saint Philemon, who was mentioned in Paul's letter to Philemon in the New Testament. And one of Paul's admonitions to Philemon was to forgive the debt of his slave Onesimus, who owed him, and to not treat him as property, but as his own family. Onesimus was also a common name for Roman slaves, which was a name that quite literally meant beneficial or profitable or useful, as they were mere commodities and not people. As for the slave Onesimus, he would eventually become a bishop himself, and was later beheaded in Rome for refusing to renounce Christ.